this is a real seminal moment for us to be able to start booking serious levels of reserves here. We still have a huge amount of growth that we can access, and we're trying to now take this, what we've done, which was to prove out the play and turn it into cash flow and do that as quickly as possible.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined on the line by Colin Harrington, the CEO of Zephyr Energy. Colin, very good to speak with you today. It's been a busy year so far for Zephyr. Latest update being an updated competent persons report on Paradox. What were some of the highlights?
Yeah, well, good to see you, Stephen, and thanks for doing this. Yeah, I mean, we released the CPR, as you mentioned, last week, and we wanted to give investors some time to digest. But for me, the biggest highlight was really this substantial progression from contingent resources to proved and possible reserves. I'll just take the 2P numbers alone. We had a 25x increase, so 25 times increase up to 35 million barrels of 2P numbers. When you look at how much cash that throws off over the years, we're talking under current forecasts, 400 million of cash flow, PV today of those proved reserves of around $100 million. So it's a really substantial increase for us. We see the same thing with our contingents, and we still have the huge amount of overlying reservoir of 270 million barrels associated with that. So for me, it was just a good progression, a lot of value. You can see it's a really nice validation of the work we've done so far. And I think we're on an upward trajectory, which makes me really excited and will bring about good things next.
As you said, Colin, it's a substantial increase and seemingly from only part of the Paradox. How significant is this?
Yeah, well, it's really significant. First of all, when you compare it to our current market cap, we've just put out 2P reserves of $100 million. When you add our Williston numbers in, which is approximately another $50 million, that's 150 million approved asset value, not accounting for any of the growth or the potential upside from that. Back out, roughly $20 million of debt that we've got on this, and we're trading it well under the level of just our approved asset value without accounting for any of the growth. So that I think is one way of validating it. And you're 100% right. This is only on about 20,000 acres under which we have seismic, where you can validate it through the seismic. And that's what the reserve firm did to do this. But obviously, as you expand the acreage out, there could be considerably more value there.
What's next then for Paradox as you move from appraisal to development? What should shareholders be looking out for?
Well, we're always looking at ways to increase the underlying value here. We call it HVA. So H is for horizontally, V is for vertically, A is to accelerate things. So we've taken a number of steps and we've started talking about this. When I say expand the project horizontally, we've nominated lands all around as significant acreage packages, which would increase the overall size of the asset base. Vertically means we're going to test the vertical reservoirs. We're only talking in these numbers about the Cane Creek Reservoir, but there are 8 overlying reservoirs that we've high graded that look very, very similar in terms of they have movable hydrocarbons, they've got the same reservoir properties, we've got cores from them. We think by testing those out, you'd start to move some of the 270 million of 2U into contingent, and again, following the progression that we've done. And lastly, the A for acceleration, if you look at the gap between the cash flow, let's again just use the 2P numbers, it's $400 million of cash flow over the life of the project from that reservoir. But PV of that is only about $100 million today, and that's because it's assuming a very slow, organically funded drilling program. One of the reasons we're out talking to partners is if we can accelerate that program, we can substantially increase today's PVs. So we see a lot of ways to increase value here. We're working on all of them. And, the next step is finding a partner to help us do this.
What about your non-operated portfolio, Colin?
Yeah, so we've integrated the most recent acquisition. We're working through that, and we are, going over it with a fine-tooth comb and figuring out ways to increase value. As you've seen earlier this week, we did a deal. We did our first deal under our private equity partnership, where some of the wells that are about to be drilled in the new acquisition are being funded by the partner. We hope to be doing a lot more of those in the near term. So non-op portfolio is ticking along, it's growing, and really nice to get the deal over the line, and you'll see a substantial increase in our production in the second half of the year thanks to that deal.
Colin, what are your priorities for the rest of the year?
Well, operationally, we're focused very intensively on our partnership and getting our volumes to market. So we're working with Enbridge, who's the owner of the pipeline that runs from our field. We're doing the commercial agreements. We're going through the regulatory process and all the engineering to help to be able to speed up the time that it's going to take to get the existing wells that have been drilled, get them online and producing. So that's a very clear operational focus. On the other side, as we think about the growth in this story, it's focused on finding a larger partner. This is a much larger project now. We think it'll be attractive to both other operators and to investors from a private investor standpoint, industry investors. So we have kicked off a process. We have a data room open. We've got multiple parties in there right now, and we're going to focus really hard on trying to bring in the right partner to help us accelerate the cash flows that, as we talked about earlier.
Any final message to shareholders, Colin?
I really appreciate the diligence and the time and the patience that everybody's had as we get to this point. This is a real seminal moment for us to be able to start booking serious levels of reserves here. We still have a huge amount of growth that we can access, and we're trying to now take this, what we've done, which was to prove out the play and turn it into cash flow and do that as quickly as possible. So I appreciate people coming along for the ride with us. We're happy to answer questions. We'll be back in touch very soon with the next round of news flow. So thanks everybody, and thanks again, Stephen, for the talk today.
Well, I hope you'll keep us posted on your progress. Thank you very much for speaking with us too.
Thanks.
That's Colin Harrington, the CEO of Zephyr Energy.